The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung. But how can you ever become that person if you're always available for everyone else, yet never for yourself? Think about it. How many times have you said yes when deep down you wanted to say no? How often have you answered calls, replied to messages, or given your energy to people who wouldn't even notice if you disappeared for a while? There's a hidden weight in always being available, a subtle drain that pulls you away from your center. Jung understood this better than most. He saw how people lose themselves in the expectations of others, becoming masks, roles, servants to demands that don't truly belong to them. Availability can feel like kindness, but when it's constant, it becomes a prison. People stop valuing your presence when it's guaranteed, when they know they can reach for you at any time, and you'll be there. What's left of you when you've stretched yourself so thin that your own soul barely has room to breathe? This is what Jung was pointing to when he spoke about the importance of boundaries, individuality, and the hidden power of stepping back. Life transforms the moment you stop living as an endless resource for others and start recognizing your own worth. Suddenly, people notice your absence. They remember your value. And more importantly, you start to remember it too. Today, we'll explore why pulling back, why not being available all the time, can completely change how people see you, how you see yourself, and even how your relationships unfold. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is not to give more, but to step back, to withdraw just enough to hear your own voice again, and to realize that the privilege of a lifetime is not in being endlessly accessible. It's in finally becoming who you truly are. One of the most overlooked truths about human relationships is that the more available you make yourself, the less visible you actually become. When you are constantly present, constantly answering every call, every message, every demand, without pause, without distance, you slowly fade into the background of people's lives. It's not that they dislike you or that you have no value, it's that the human psyche has a strange way of ignoring what is always guaranteed. Carl Jung understood this dynamic deeply because at the heart of his psychology is the idea of balance, the tension between the ego, the shadow, and the other. We are not meant to live only in service to the external world, forever bending, adjusting, and adapting ourselves to meet the needs of others. Jung called this over-adaptation, and he warned that it is one of the surest ways to lose the essence of who you are. When you adapt too much, when you become endlessly available, you sacrifice your individuality, what Jung called the process of individuation, the journey of becoming a whole, authentic self. Instead of walking that path, you dissolve into roles, expectations, and obligations, slowly disconnecting from your own inner voice. And the irony is painful. The more you try to be there for everyone, the less you are truly seen. Your presence stops being a gift and starts being background noise. In relationships, this creates a subtle but destructive effect. The more frequently you are around, the more you're taken for granted. People unconsciously assume you'll always be there, so they stop valuing your time, your effort, your sacrifices. Your availability becomes their entitlement. But when you step back, even slightly, the dynamic shifts. Absence awakens awareness. People notice what they once ignored. They feel the weight of your presence by experiencing its loss. And in that space, respect and appreciation begin to grow again. Jung would say, this is not manipulation, but a restoration of balance. By reclaiming your time, your energy, your inner space, you allow others to see you clearly again, and you allow yourself to reconnect with the depths of your own psyche. In truth, relationships are healthiest when they breathe, when there is space for longing, reflection, and growth. And that space is only created when you stop being endlessly available and start living as someone whose presence has weight, whose absence has meaning, and whose life is not defined solely by others, but by the wholeness of your own self. So, how do you actually live this out in practice? How do you step out of the trap of constant availability without feeling guilty and without fearing that people will abandon you the moment you create space? It begins with something deceptively simple, yet profoundly difficult. Setting healthy boundaries. This means learning to say no without apology, without the hidden fear that someone's disappointment will erase your worth. Saying no is not an act of aggression. It's an act of respect for your own time, your energy, and your truth. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you betray yourself, and over time, that betrayal hardens into resentment. Jung would remind us that individuation requires honesty, and that honesty must start with the self. Once you begin to claim that right, the second step is what I call strategic withdrawal, the conscious choice to step back, to create silence and space, not as punishment to others, but as nourishment for yourself. Withdrawal is not weakness, it is not avoidance. It is the discipline of knowing when your presence loses its value because it has become too common, too expected. By retreating intentionally, even for short periods, you allow both yourself and others to reset the dynamic. You create contrast, and in that contrast, your presence regains its weight. The third practice is perhaps the most important, turning the reclaimed time inward, rather than filling it again with distractions or other people's demands. Use it to grow. Read, reflect, journal, meditate, train your body, explore your creativity. Every hour you redirect into your own development is an investment in becoming someone stronger, deeper, more whole. And here lies the paradox. When you stop chasing connection by being endlessly available, you actually become more magnetic. People begin to see you differently. They sense your self-respect, and they respond to it with their own. You will find yourself treated with more seriousness, more curiosity, and more admiration, not because you tried to impress anyone, but because you finally stopped betraying yourself. Over time, your confidence grows quietly, rooted not in validation from others, but in the knowledge that you live by choice, not compulsion. The respect you earn is real, because it mirrors the respect you now give to yourself. And the most vital result of all is internal. You feel whole again. You feel connected to your own center, to the inner voice that used to be drowned out by the noise of constant giving. Jung would call this the return to individuation, the process of becoming who you are meant to be. So when you step back, when you refuse to be endlessly available, you are not abandoning anyone. You are finally choosing to stop abandoning yourself. And in that choice lies a transformation. Relationships grow healthier, attraction grows stronger, respect deepens, and your life becomes aligned with the simple but powerful truth that your presence has meaning, only when your absence does too. In the end, Carl Jung reminds us of a timeless truth. When you stop being available to everyone, you finally become available to yourself. Stepping back is not a sign of rejection, but an act of protection, protecting your energy, your time, and the deepest parts of who you are. Most of us are conditioned to believe that constant presence is love, that endless giving is strength, but Jung shows us the opposite. True strength comes from balance, from knowing when to be there and when to retreat, from valuing your own inner life as much as the needs of others. Pulling back does not mean you love less, it means you love wisely, with respect for both yourself and those around you. So, as you leave this video, ask yourself honestly, where in your life have you been too available, too present, too willing to bend? And what might shift if you allowed yourself the courage to step back, even just a little? The answer could change the way others see you, but more importantly, it could change the way you see yourself. Remember, your presence carries meaning only when your absence carries weight, and the moment you begin to honor that balance, you step closer to becoming who you truly are.